Now back to Shervo on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Let's catch up with New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, who's in Lismore at the moment. Thanks for joining us, Premier. Just let's talk about Lismore first off, because 2 years ago, almost to the day, inundated with flooding. They barely had time to clean up and they copped it again. How are they feeling at the moment, knowing that they're in the firing line from Cyclone Alfred?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Look, the town of Lismore's been to hell and back over the last few years. 2022 was a devastating natural disaster. One of the worst, not just in Lismore's history, but in Australia's history. But they're resilient people and they get back on their feet. We're seeing that again. The town's ready for the next 72 hours, but you wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy. It's obviously very traumatic and it brings back some terrible memories for a tough town.
What are your biggest concerns for that northeast region of New South Wales right now?
Yeah, I think probably riverine flooding and the wind. So there's three things that we're worried about when it comes to this cyclone. Dangerous seas, particularly surf conditions and their impact on the coast. Then the winds, and you're already seeing winds of up to 100 kilometres an hour at Cape Byron. That'll move inland as the storm gets closer to the coast. And then finally riverine flooding. So, I mean, when the storm comes through and starts to pass, you can still expect flooding in parts of the northern rivers. We need to send a very clear message to people not to drive through flood rivers under any circumstances. It's the most common way people lose their lives. You put yourself in danger, your passengers in danger, as well as SES volunteers who are sent in to try and rescue you.
Chris, are you concerned about power outages and the length of time that potentially the power could be out?
Yeah, there will almost certainly be power outages. That's the message from energy utilities. I know Essential Energy's pre-positioned crews in preparation for potentially energy being out in communities. We're going to do our best to get them switched on as soon as possible, but when you've got winds of over 100 kilometres an hour, it's almost inevitable. Again, we're going to try and keep it as brief as possible, but obviously people need to be prepared for it. Best way to do that is download the Hazards Near Me app. It'll give you the latest, most up-to-date information about where Alfred is tracking and when you can expect to see the worst of the weather impacts.
What about supplies, rescues? We know the SES are on standby, the ADF are on standby as well. If people get themselves into trouble, how can you help?
Yeah, there's 2,000 SES volunteers that have been positioned up on the northern rivers from all over New South Wales. Shervo, we've got to give a big shout out to many of them. They're volunteers who've agreed to do this, leave their family, leave their job to keep complete strangers safe. They're fantastic people. Not just the SES, obviously Fire and Rescue, New South Wales Police, the RFS, everybody's on standby, prepared for the worst, but even the best resourced emergency department can't be everywhere all at the same time if there's a major natural disaster. So look, we're asking the public to do their bit, listen to emergency broadcasts like here on Sunrise, understand what the threats are to your local community and act if you're given official instructions from the SES.
I can't get beyond the mental trauma, Chris, that many people would be feeling right about now that have lived through flooding like this that we saw in Lismore a couple of years ago, and now they have to wait even longer, not knowing the uncertainty that sort of looms over them at the moment. I mean, what's your message to people right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what they're going through. The only thing I would say in my time as Premier, having come to the Northern Rivers a lot, speaking to the local MP Janelle or the Mayor Steve, is that they're tough people. I mean, they're incredibly resilient. They're optimistic about the future, even in the face of incredibly difficult circumstances. And whilst we don't want anyone to go through this, I'm confident the people of the Northern Rivers are ready and they'll get through this no matter what the weather has in store for them.
Okay, Premier Chris Minns, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you joining us. If you are out and about, if you're in a community that potentially is going to be affected by floods, may be affected by floods in the next couple of days, look after your neighbours, make sure everyone's okay, try and stay in touch as much as you can. Let's have a look to the skies at the moment, because here I am at Burleigh Beach, not far from the Gold Coast Airport. Yesterday we were seeing planes come and go, not today. Ben Holland, Head of Operations at Qantas, joins us now. What's the latest? We know that Gold Coast is shut down for now. What about other airports, potentially Brisbane in the coming hours or even the next 24?
Yeah, morning, Matt. Yesterday the focus was on the airports in northern New South Wales. Today the focus is on southeast Queensland, in particular Brisbane. We're trying to provide as much flexibility as possible for our customers throughout the day to get them safely home to their family and their loved ones. And we'd really encourage them to be able to change their bookings and concentrate on flying this morning with us. At this stage, we have a couple of thousand seats available both into and out of Brisbane in the morning, and so please, for our customers that are travelling, if you want to get home to your loved ones and your family before the landfall of the cyclone, please go to your Qantas.com, your Jetstar.com and the Qantas app, manage your bookings or contact our contact centres and look to shift your travel to this morning or defer it until after the cyclone passes.
Those that are flying into potentially Brisbane today, for example, there would be anxiety amongst passengers heading off and landing in this area at the moment. What can you tell them?
My mum flies as well, and she's anxious, and I'm also a pilot, so I can understand the feelings there. I can offer that our passengers can be 100% confident that when we choose to fly, it's done safely, and that their care is always foremost in our minds. And that's not just with our frontline staff, but all of the staff behind the scenes. Safety is first and foremost with us.
Ben, for us on the ground, and the locals here on the Gold Coast and up and down the coast to New South Wales as well, they're preparing their homes. They're hoping that things are going to be okay. For someone like you in your job, following this weather map, following this cyclone is critically important. Do you have extra information that you have to track Cyclone Alfred with?
We have a dedicated meteorological team that supports the BOM. They're tracking this minute by minute, but also if you think about our network, it's worldwide. So it's not just Australia that's our focus, but we're tracking these systems all across the world, not just cyclones, but also volcanoes. We've also got dedicated teams that are set up. We've got a crisis management team that's activated at the moment. They're meeting twice daily and they're considering all of our options, not for just when we potentially cancel services, but also the restart is equal as important, because we want to be able to come in and also support our passengers that want to fly after this.
So Ben, can I ask you, what's your modelling telling you? When's it going to hit land and where?
The latest modelling is indicating potentially delayed from the first estimates, and around mid-morning on Friday, around the 7, 8 o'clock. The exact path is still a little bit difficult to model, but at this stage it's in the Brisbane area.
Okay, Ben Holland from Qantas Operations, appreciate your time. Let's go to Paul Burt, who's at Coolangatta right now, and we're talking about tracking this storm at the moment, this tropical cyclone. Bertie, is it any easier for the experts right now than the people trying to protect their homes?
No, the longer it stays out at sea, it's a sort of double-edged sword there, Matt, because the longer it stays out to sea, it can generate, and obviously they're talking about coming into high-end Cat 2, possibly Cat 3 out there, and hopefully decreasing as it comes closer to land. But the longer it stays out there, as it has slowed right down now, it's generating in that water temp, the warm water temp. Now, the sea surface temperature, okay, has got to be a minimum of 26 degrees for a cyclone to form. Hence the reason why they form in the northeastern parts of the Coral Sea. Water temp up there, 29, 30 degrees. Now, down here at the moment, it's still around 26.9 degrees where it's sitting. It's a little bit cooler closer to the coast, but as long as it hovers over that warm water, that engine is going to gather more speed and obviously re-intensify. So that is the problem. So they can watch the track on that. If it alters by 1 degree over, say, 100 kilometres, that can alternate between 2 and 3 kilometres of landfall where it'll come in. So it has to do a real big shift for it to come further down onto the Gold Coast. At this stage, it's staying closer to Brisbane. For people at home, it does give them a little bit more time to get things going. Now, I had a lot of people out there sitting in, thinking a little bit, it's apprehensive, it's not going to be that bad, but now I've had so many messages coming through that people are worried about what's happening. How long do we have? Well, reality is, you had time, but now you still have that little bit more to get things out of the weather. Move indoor, outdoor, chairs and stuff inside if you can. Really important. But at the moment down here at Froggies, have a look at the foam, mate. There's sea foam is everywhere. It's an absolute mess, but this is what happens when the wild ocean mixes with the wind and, of course, all that organic matter in the ocean. And the other side of the coin there too, Shervo, we'll see a lot of these being washed up. Broken surfboards.
It's amazing, isn't it, that the surfers have been going out the last couple of days. A couple of years ago, we saw you standing in front of a 20-foot high pile of foam. You lost a dog, you found a dog within it. Is this only going to get worse?
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. These seas, at the moment, we're getting the whip from that cyclone pushing in. But as it gets closer, the winds are going to get stronger. What makes swell? Wind. So as that wind gets stronger, the swell will get even bigger. And of course, what happens with all this foam that gets worse is because the ocean mixes with the wind, the swell dumping, its aeration, all of that sea matter, the organic matter in the ocean gets churned up. Hence the reason why that foam is brown. It can stain your clothes. It will get a lot worse, particularly as we're heading towards the later parts of tomorrow on that afternoon high tide. So what we're seeing at the moment, it's a bit of a reprieve because we're right on low tide. The high tides at the moment, they're rather small. They're not a 2 metre or anything like that plus. They're about a 1.5 metre, which is coming through at around 1 a.m. at the moment. A little bit smaller throughout the afternoon. So that's enough, but still with the sea height coming in, all of that energy has got to disperse somewhere. Okay, so when it hits the surf, what's going to happen? It rolls up into the sand dunes, and that can catch a lot of people who are down taking photos unaware. But places like this, it's just flying around, as you can see everywhere through here. The wind wraps around these headlands, and that's another important thing when you are at home, is to keep your windows closed, okay? If you have one open, it can alternate the pressure within your house, and obviously that can lead to a roof busting off or windows blowing out. So really important to do that to stop any air from coming in or wind from coming in. But around these headlands, you can get those gusts coming through at around 5 knots or say 10 kilometres per hour, and then within 5 seconds it can be 35 to 40 kilometres per hour. That's only going to get worse as that system gets closer. And again, it looks as this stage, it could be late tomorrow night into early Saturday morning.
Bertie, for a man that lives in his thongs, are you wearing your good shoes today, Crocs?
I got them on, mate. Look, you know the thing that I got to say to you too there, Shervo, I found one very similar. It was a size 14. I'm really happy about that. But it was only the right. So I'm putting a thing out. If anyone's found the left one, just send it to me and I'll give you a beer or something.
Okay. I've got an orange slide from Drake that came out of Sydney Harbour, so maybe they can put the two together.
Right.
Paul Burt, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. So much more to come here on Sunrise as we continue to track Cyclone Alfred on the Gold Coast. Stay with us.